Hello and welcome to the LiveFitNow podcast. This is episode 49 and I am your host, Vicki Brown. I hope you're well today and you enjoyed last week's episode. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to the podcast, please do that now so that you do not miss out on any future episodes. This week it is a conversation. I have a very interesting and wonderful guest. So without further ado, let me get you straight into the conversation. My guest today is a yoga teacher and soul coach who focuses on working with women working through the menopause. We will be chatting about what it is that she does today and covering some of my favourite questions for my guests. Her name is Kim Pierpoint. Welcome to the LiveFitNow podcast. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Hi there. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really well. Thank you. It is a bit grey and dull outside, but it's a new moon. So I'm feeling very energized today.
Wonderful. So I think a really good place to start today is, can you just tell us a little bit more about your background, what it is that you actually do?
Yeah, I sure can. I am a yoga teacher. I have been teaching yoga for just over 17 years now. And I've taught a full range of yoga styles over the years. Various things have come in and out of fashion in terms of yoga. Never dabbled in the goat yoga though. And about 2 years ago, when that thing happened, we don't need to mention, I'm a runner. And I hurt my hip, and that has meant that I've had to do a little bit of refocusing on how I work. Now, my osteopath has said that my hip has been saved by the fact that I've been doing a lot of yoga, but it's also got a little bit of RSI in the hip as well. So I am teaching online and I intend to continue to teach online, but I needed to replace or work in a different way from all the face-to-face classes that I did pre-lockdown. So one of the things I'm really passionate about is working with women who are menopausal but have managed to manage their menopause. So there's lots and lots of support out there for women who are going through those hot flushes, those terrible brain fogs. When you've got it, it is just really, really hard. However, when you find the right type of support or medication or whatever it is that you take, and I'm not interested in what it is, and I'm not here to sort of say you must do X, Y, or Z. I find that women then have got this new renewed vigor. We've got this big change going on in their lives, but not only is it a physical change, but there's a lot of mental change as well. And some of that is feeling, if you like, a little bit of bereavement as to the woman that you used to be. Because you are no longer childbearing, whether you've had children or not, you're no longer childbearing. There has been a big change in your body, but that also affects you mentally. And what I find is when I'm working with women is actually they begin to sort of lose a bit of confidence, or they start talking about the dreams that they used to have. Now, the classic one that I always talk about is my own. I dreamt I was going to go to New Zealand and jump off a bridge doing a bungee jump. But as a woman of a certain age, my pelvic floor is very good, I have to hasten to add, but wouldn't really withstand a bungee jump. So it's not a case of not being able to dream anymore. It's about helping women to refocus and reprioritize their dreams, particularly if they've got not only that transition physically and mentally, but there may be other physical changes in their lives. Their children may be going to university, getting married, and then suddenly you've got parents to care for. And what happens is you've gone from being that carer for children, if that's you, or you've been in a career, and then suddenly you're moving into this new phase where you're now caring for aging parents. So again, you're slipping down the list, and those dreams start to sort of dwindle and just disappear. So my focus is helping you find the confidence to find the dream that's right for you at this age, at this period, or refocus so that you don't look back when you're 60 or 70 and say, I really would have liked to, if I had had the confidence. It was easy for others. I had to do this. All those barriers can be broken down, and your dreams can be really, really simple. It might just be, I've never been for a cream tea with my girlfriends. Or it can be, I want to go on a boat sailing. And it doesn't have to be massively expensive things. It can just be a case of saying, I'm now at this period in my life and I want to refocus my dreams. And what I've found is, as I transitioned and built that into my life and started working with women, is that my skills as a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, breathwork teacher, and an EFT teacher could work with the women in that way. I still teach yoga, and I still have a very good community of yogis that work with me. And I have found that as I have progressed through age, a lot of my loyal customers and clients obviously have got older with me. So my greatest and one of my most proudest things that I love to say is that one of my face-to-face classes that I have gone back to is a group of at least 15 to 20 regular clients. And the average age has got to be 72 in that room.
Yes. Brilliant.
And for me, that is also creating dreams for those people, because a lot of them have come in and say, I can't stand on my one leg. I can't do this. I can't do that, because they have this belief that their body has changed and they can no longer be the bendy Wendy that they thought they may have been. And I love to empower that group to let them do the poses. We might have to make it a slightly different shape. We all change. But there are other days when I know that I can let this group leave. And actually, one of the biggest things I'm really keen on promoting with that group is keeping their breathing really full, because we tend to get shallow breath as we get older. We collapse in the chest, we collapse in the ribs, and balance. I'm really keen on encouraging them to balance. You know, the evidence suggests that if you fall when you're older, your life, I can't think of the word now, your life expectancy also can decline as well.
Yeah.
So these ladies, predominantly ladies, I've got 2 men in there as well, these ladies, they're postmenopausal. We don't even talk about menopause, but we talk about being able to keep them on their mat and keep them doing it. And they even roll up, and we've got bad knees, bad hips, bad shoulders, bad toes. We've got arthritis. We've got hip replacements, knee replacements. We've got pacemakers, you name it. Everything is going on in that room, but everybody does something. So I know that was a long way of telling you, but I think I wanted to sort of let you know that it's not just about being that flexible person. It's about being flexible in my approach to working with different people and bringing all these different ways to enable people to feel like they can still dream and they can still do things.
Yeah, I mean, do you think a lot of it really it's about reconnecting with ourselves, isn't it? I think actually a lot of people, through perhaps their first few decades, they actually are a lot more disconnected than perhaps they realize, but you kind of just get away with it because you just sort of get on with life. You're too busy to really think about it. And then you just reach this stage. And I can see from exactly what you're saying, for women, it often is in the menopause. And I can think of that from the experience of people that I've been working with. And you realize you just need to take a moment to reconnect and rediscover who you are right now. Because I think there's a lot of rose-tinted glasses, reminiscing of the past, sort of thinking back to what things were. Whereas actually we just need to come into the present moment, which obviously all of those yoga, meditation, all of those skills really help you just come into the moment and think about what it is you want to do right now and what you want to do going into the future.
I absolutely think you're right. You know, I think that actually, as you say, in your younger years, it's all about exploring and being adventurous, growing, building a family, building a career, buying a house, and that's very, very exciting. But you know, it's all about really, all of this is you have within you, and it's about listening to yourself. You know, I really truly believe that you have all the answers within you. I really truly believe that, but most of the time we just need direction and accountability to know how to access those questions or those answers and how to take those forwards. You know, for me as a soul coach, I really encourage you to listen to your soul. And people often say, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. It's not an external thing that comes to you. It's about reconnecting to your intuition and listening to yourself. You know, many of us, including myself, don't really know ourselves as much as we like to think we do. We don't really know that, some of the things that have happened to our bodies or happening to our bodies, not only as a result of our aging process, but the body holds memories as well. So sometimes I find that working with people, and, I've got a lady at the moment who is very tearful, really tearful. And I'm really happy for her to bring those tears up because it's letting go. But what I also working with her is asking, when she does have those moments of tears, where does she feel it in the body? And maybe that has some history to it as well. Maybe there is some fear and some anxiety around that time when she's crying. And to cry is almost for her a sort of, if I'm crying, they won't shout at me anymore. If I'm crying, they're not going to hurt me anymore because I am submissive in my tears. And I'm saying this because we've unpeeled this together, and we've discovered that, yes, there was some bits going on in the past. Now, what we can't do is we can't change the past, but we can recognize that these feelings and these emotions are in the body. And this is what I mean when I say we don't know ourselves very well, because when you get those headaches, is it because you're tired? Is it because you're dehydrated? We don't know. Sometimes we're so quick to reach for the paracetamol, we forget that we could actually, resolve some of these things. When your shoulder hurts, here's a classic. My knee used to hurt when I went flying as in holidays. Remember those days? My knee would hurt. I fell off a horse when I was 18. And my knee would hurt every time I was going to fly, because my brain had remembered the time when that was really painful and I was anxious. I couldn't walk properly for nearly 3 or 4 months. So when I got anxious about flying, my knee would hurt because it remembered, oh, that's where it hurt. If the knee hurts, she's in a state of anxiety. And so it is about listening to those things and remembering, as you say, this mind-body link is really important. And we live a wonderful life, and then there comes a point where you think, actually, it'd be really useful to understand these things.
Yeah, I think it reaches a point as well that your body tells you the whole time along the way, but we're very good at ignoring and pushing it down until it reaches a point where it says, no, you're not ignoring us anymore. You've got to listen now. And it's actually trying to get in there before you get to the point where you have to do it while you can, because you're choosing to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. Again, I think that's perhaps a little bit of the way that our culture is. The brain is for thinking, and for academia, the body is for movement. And we've just got this little missing link that actually the two are linked together. It's getting better. There's some fabulous practitioners out there, some fabulous medics, and there's some fabulous GPs out there that can see these connections, and they all support in our health and well-being and with our mental health. So some of this might be a little bit woo-woo for some people, but there is evidence and science behind a lot of it. So even if I might come at it in a way of, maybe I'm really passionate about journaling, about letting it pour out, getting pen to paper and just writing. And you might just think, oh, that's not really doing much. But actually, if you can take it out of your body and put it onto paper, even if you never read it again, even if you then screw it up, burn it, whatever, you can let go of it. And it's a little bit more of a release. I'm a really big fan of quite a few practitioners out there who are really working hard to promote the link between the brain and the body, and the link between the gut and the body. So I'm really passionate about that as well. I'm not a nutritionist, love food, love to give people tips and hints on things that I like to eat, but I absolutely know that the gut is like the second brain.
Yeah, there's so much fascinating research into these whole areas now, and it's a ball that's rolling, and we've got a long way to go, I think, but it's fascinating to what they're discovering already. As you say, it makes sense. The science is proving what people have felt and experienced for a very long time, but they're just now getting the evidence to prove how and why that's happening, which is fascinating, isn't it, really? I just want to dive in a little bit more. What do you do as a soul coach? How does that work?
How does that work? So really, that is all about really listening to, I pretty much described it a little bit earlier when I was talking about listening to yourself from within, if that makes sense. It's really about unpeeling those layers.
If I ask you another question, what sort of people / why do people start working with you? What are they?
Why?
What do you think they want?
So I hold that space for them to try and unpeel these things. They have perhaps tried more traditional medication, but now they want to really work on themselves, and they want to really start to listen to what the body is saying, just as we've said. Now, the women that come to me they're not desperate, but they're just realizing that perhaps their confidence isn't there in the same way. Now, you don't traditionally go to a doctor for confidence. You don't traditionally go to the doctor and say, I'm a bit frightened that I might want to do a wing walk one day, and I don't really know how to do that. And then when these ladies, and I talk to ladies, and I sort of promote this dreaming, and I encourage people to come to me because they want to reinvigorate their dreams. But when I get to talk to them and work with them, actually they want to fulfill those dreams, but there's a lot going on underneath. And as I've already sort of said, the children, maybe they've got an empty nest, maybe actually they're in a marriage that's been really ticking along quite happily, but they're ready to go separate ways, and they want the confidence to go wing walking, and I'm going to put that in big inverted commas. But the wing walk is about building the confidence to move into the next phase of their life, with or without their partner. And in one case, it was without her partner. There was no acrimony between them. There was no unnecessary affairs or mucky business. But she said, we've run our course, and I just can't quite find the way to break that to him and move on. And actually, when we worked at it and we found a way for that to happen, he knew. He absolutely knew as well. And it was just that comfort zone that they were both in. And there was some finances and whatever to be sorted. But actually, when they sat down and when she had the courage and the confidence to go in and talk about it, he was completely on board. There was no unnecessaries. They both realized that they'd run their course, they'd done what they needed to do, and they hadn't stayed together because they had to. They just stayed together because it worked. But now it was time for them to go and spread their wings. She left, new home, new cottage, on her own, dog, loving life, no desire to go out and find anybody else. But she's changed herself just by the premise of telling me, I'm really interested, I really want to do this. And it was a wing walk. I really want to do this wing walk. And I was like, okay, that's great. We start to peel down, and that's what it was. And that's not what you traditionally go to. You wouldn't go to a doctor. And she didn't need a therapist per se in the traditional sense, but she wanted to try and find a way for the next phase.
I think often, it's very easy to lose yourself in life if you ever knew each other, knew yourself in the first place, just because, as we were saying before, like your friends, they're so busy, you're just getting on with life, and it's actually very easy to put everything and everyone else first. And I actually think a lot of women that I've worked with in the past struggle to actually put themselves first and think, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to put it before others, because they feel that it's selfish, when it rarely is it actually, because usually when you put yourself first, you can give more ultimately, but they've not done it for so long, they find it very difficult to do that. So I'm guessing you're helping them reconnect to be able to do that a little bit.
Yes, definitely. And I think sort of there is an element of tradition, or 21st century or not, but there's an element of tradition as well attached to it. If we look at the life of an average person, go to school, do well at school, maybe do A-levels, go to university. Doesn't have to be, it could be college, it could be vocational, get that next level of education, leave, get the job. And then starts that happiness process. When I get a promotion, I'll be really happy. And then they meet somebody. When I'm married, I'll be really happy. When we've got our first home, I'll be really happy. And actually, that happiness doesn't come, because then they become, as you say, the second party in all of this. And traditionally, women have been controlled. And then that can be quite controversial, but there has been an element of control. With nobody likes a woman that's all loud and gobby in a pub. The first thing everyone would be doing is turning around and saying, look at her. They would be saying she's either drunk or she's unsavory or whatever. We're traditionally taught to be quiet and in a box. Nobody particularly likes a woman that will stand up and be bold and sweary. She's a bit unsavory. So there's this control, and it's there. And even in terms of growing up and having children, you're expected to have the children. Now, even if you go back to work, it's changing a bit, but there is the element that you'll still be working and you'll still be the mother that's going to come home and deal with everything, this control again. And so I think I'm all about giving women their voice back to be able to stand up. And if it's stand on the top of a hill and swear your lungs out or be naked, that whole thing about, shouldn't show a shoulder, should show a shoulder. You're 50. You've got, girlfriend of mine won't wear anything with a vest because she's worried about her bingo wings. And I'm serious that there's not a bingo wing on her. And why the hell she's been conditioned to think that she's got a bit of flapping skin. It happens. It's natural. And love yourself for it. But there's this conditioning, there's this controlling that happens. And I want women to stand up in their own voice and start to feel confident. So I know that some women will, I'm not going to like what I say because they perhaps have been that person, but maybe it's their time. Maybe it's their time to really say, I have been all these things to all these other people. I don't need to leave my husband. I'm not after that. But what I really want to do doesn't involve other people. It's about me. And that's how I'm getting a bit passionate about it all now.
That's what it's about. But interestingly, something that comes up a lot for me is we're living a lot longer. I think the fact that our lifespans are increasing quite rapidly has changed this whole situation, because actually we're reaching menopause, roughly the ages that's happening. It's potentially halfway through your life. You've got half of your life left. And as you say, it starts to tilt where you're looking to look after your parents. You're starting to see the aging process in that sense. And so many people realize that they want to be able to live their life. They don't want to just be alive and get old. They want to be living their life and doing the things they want to do. And actually, it's at this time, I think, when people are like, well, I have to take control. I know I need to do something. I'm not necessarily quite sure what, but I want to be able to live my life going forward. And I think it's just that whole, you can see it in front of you, and it's just kind of knowing which direction you want to take.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the time of the menopause being, that hot woman in the corner has long gone. But as you say, we're a larger population. I'm included in that now. I'm a larger population. My education on menopause, I kid you not, was after we'd had the very embarrassing "This is how you make a baby" lecture, which was about 5 minutes. That was the most plainest way to ever make a baby. Honestly, missionary style. Completely nothing else, no exploration, nothing about orgasm, nothing about any of that. It was so straight-laced. And then at the end they said, and women, when you get older, your periods will stop. That was the menopause. That was the training in menopause. Wow. So when I got to 46 and I started to get hot night flushes, it was a laughing joke. Oh, look at her, she's in her menopause. And I didn't realize. And actually, then I went from night flushes, and that caused lack of sleep, that caused a sort of anxiety, that caused a slight depression. I am my best customer because I know I've been there, I've changed it, I've done these things. Yeah. And my biggest part of my perimenopause, prior to me getting it under control, was loneliness. The loneliness was unreal. absolutely unreal. And that is not documented. And it is in some of the menopause with some of the doctors. I was so connected socially on social media. This was pre-lockdown. So I had social media. I had a fabulous group of girlfriends. I've got a fantastic family. We're dysfunctional, and we love the fact that we're dysfunctional. I've got a husband. I've got a dog. I don't have children. I've got neighbors. I've got all this community of yoga people. At the point, I was teaching 150 people a week in yoga classes. I certainly was not physically lonely, but internally I was lonely. And that, that education that we're seeing so much more for women in menopause is so fabulous. But what happens once you've got it under control? And there's lots of women who struggle to get it under control. There's lots of women who sail through their menopause. And there's lots of people who, like me, I've got my HRT. And then I was like a new reinvigorated woman. I was like, okay, where are we going to go from here? What can I do? Where can I go? Because I just got into the rut of life. Everything had been jogging along nicely. Because we're living older, we're living that much longer, I'm healthier than perhaps we were if you got to 50, back in the day. I'm physically but healthier, I'm mentally alert. My time is not over. And that's what I'm talking to other women and saying, we can do so many incredible things. And that doesn't have to be just dreams about cream teas, wing walking, whatever. I've got women in my group that I work with who are looking to start their own businesses. It's been an aspiration of theirs to run businesses. Then they're starting off as hobby businesses, but they're growing. I've got one woman who's making a fabulous business, and she was like, well, I only wanted to do it a little bit, but suddenly it's grown and grown and grown. And that's just so inspiring. We don't need to be, knitting nanas. There's nothing wrong with knitting, but we don't need to sit back and be knitting nanas.
Certainly not yet either. I think that's exactly it though, isn't it? It's that whole reframing what this idea of old is, this whole concept. And I think actually it's one of the reasons why people struggle to, well, firstly, people definitely don't have a big enough understanding yet, but we're definitely getting there, of all of the symptoms that can come with menopause. I mean, there are so many that you could potentially get, and they don't even associate it with it. And then maybe they do slightly think, maybe that's what it is, but they think, oh no, I'm not old enough yet, that can't be me, because you don't want to be, associating with that yet. Whereas it's just a thing that is going to happen to all of us that we need to try and understand and embrace, and then see it's just the next step before the whole rest of your life. And it's reframing that aging thing. I think it's a really significant part of it.
Absolutely. We need to move through it. It is that reframe of aging. I didn't imagine, I remember my mum said a classic thing about somebody we knew. So somebody we knew, she hadn't got children, and she was talk about external views on people. She was so old-fashioned in her clothing and her approach to life. And my mum used to say, well, you know why she's like that, because she hasn't got any children. And so that was in my mind, as I don't have children. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be this knitting nana. I'm going to have cardigans on, rollers in my hair, going to be wearing Velcro shoes before I know it. And then I've got to this age. I remember the age that this conversation took place. This lady was just 50. I am 51. And here I am, I've just bought a jumpsuit. I'm wearing, I'm not the least bit interested in Velcro shoes, cardigans. I'll buy a twin set if it's on Vogue, but I'm not really interested. I'm here and I'm like, I'm nowhere near that woman that my mum talked about just because I don't have children. So, and I didn't fall into that category of, if I don't have children, I'm not going to be fashionable or trendy or whatever. I'm going to be old and grey and just crumpled up in a corner. That it might be seen as a shallow view from my mum, but that was her life, that was her generation. But here I am now. I've run marathons. I'm currently not running because I've not only got a hip issue, I've got shin splints, but God willing, in a following wind, I'm going to be back out in the next couple of weeks. and I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be running. I swim, I walk my dog every day, I practice yoga. I'm just sat here today, 1st of March, going, shall I do a skipping challenge this month? Can I do 200 skips every day? My mum would have never have done any of that. She just was still busy jogging, throwing all the balls in the air, but never thinking about herself. And if I talked to her about this, she would say, just get on with your life, stop being so silly, stop being dizzy, because it's just a different generation thing. And I think we're aging younger. That's the difference. We are definitely aging younger.
Yeah, there's definitely a massively sped up mindset change, because we have to. I mean, otherwise we spend literally half of our life acting old. I think it's genuinely if you're lucky with health issues, or rather not having health issues, you can just continue doing things for decade upon decade. But if you've already given up because I'm old now and I can't do that, well, you're not going to do it. But why not? Why can't you do it?
Yeah. And that's why I'm so proud of my yoga group, my ladies and my gents in my older group, because they have got that mindset. They are the age of my mum and my parents. And they do come in and say, oh, I can't do this week, Kim. And I say, well, why? What's wrong? Oh, well, my knee's been playing up. And I say, okay, well, we're definitely, and I produce a picture on my phone of some beautiful body on Instagram that's tied up like a pretzel. And we're not going to do this week. We're going to do a version of it. And we always do something. So even if somebody's only done, a third of that posture, they've had a bloody good go at it, and they feel better and they feel invigorated, and they are inspiring me. I keep them going. They inspire me to be 70 and on my mat and do those things. But they come with some old traditional views of things. I will walk into that room and they'll say, have you had a busy week? You need to slow down. Well, why do I need to slow down? I need to look after myself. Self-care is important, but I'm not sitting back and putting my feet up yet.
Exactly. But you know what? They're brilliant, aren't they? Because they're still turning up every week. That's the most important.
They were absolutely. And they were the noisiest group for saying, are you coming back? All the other groups were, some have stayed online, and I have a great community online with my clients, and that works really well. But this particular face-to-face group, as soon as we got the go-ahead to go back into face-to-face work, so I didn't work face-to-face from March 2020 until September 21. But during that period of that summer period, that July to August, they were like little birds tapping on the window. Are you coming back? Are any of your classes coming back? If any class comes back, can it be the Friday class? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I'd spent 15, 16 years working most evenings in the week. And I was pretty glad for lockdown, if I'm honest, to not be in my car and driving from class to class. So it was a really good break. Lots of other issues, but that was one of the good ones for me. But they came and knocked on the door and said, and I didn't go back to many others. I've refreshed, reframed, pivoted. There's all sorts of words that are going on at the moment. But they were the group that I just thought, actually, I can't leave them. None of them came online.
Oh,
they weren't interested in doing the online stuff. The online community were worried that I was going to go back to face and not see them. So now it all works perfectly. Got the lovely group and a whole selection of memberships online. So you can do live classes, you can buy a library where you can just do classes on your own. So there's lots of options there. And then I've got the face-to-face. It all works really well. And it enables me to use all these skills in different ways.
Exactly. It's broadening the options, really, isn't it? That's the, as you say, the good things that have come out of the last couple of years, how we've had to restructure everything, really. One of my favorite questions to ask people, sometimes it throws people, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are there any common myths linked to either of your jobs that you would like to debunk?
Oh my golly. Well, I think yoga gives you strength and flexibility, not only physically, but mentally as well. But I also really, and my older group are testament to this, you absolutely, the biggest question that people always ask me if they want to come to yoga is, I'd love to come to yoga, but I can't touch my feet. I'm not interested in whether they can touch their feet. So I want to debunk the myth that you have to be bendy, flexible, hypermobile to do yoga. In fact, those people don't need yoga. If you are stiff, got short hamstrings, got a little bit of stiffness in your joints, you are the person that needs to come to yoga on a physical level. But yoga also, I want to debunk the myth that yoga is all about stretching, but yoga is way deeper than that. It's got a philosophy that goes back 2,500, 3,000 years. And that's why the soul coaching is so important to me, because so much of the yoga is about looking inwards to realize who you are. You know, originally yoga was doing poses so that the body was comfortable to sit long periods of time in meditation. So we've gone slightly skewed with the way that people see yoga these days, the amount of times, and I've taught those types of classes where somebody says, I've just done a boot camp, Kim, can you come in and do the yoga? So I'm seen as the stretch person. And when I start to talk about a bit more of the philosophy, they're all a bit, oh, crikey, I didn't expect it to be this. But yoga isn't just the stretch class. There's a lot of work going on underneath. And the other thing is, we talked earlier about some of this stuff being woo-woo. The work that they discovered on the body 2,500 years is now being found scientifically. So we have these energy points that we're fond of in yoga called the chakras. They relate to our brain freeze. I want to say glands, but they relate to the thyroid. They relate to the pineal gland. So it is glands within the body, and they sit in almost alignment with those points in the body. And they have when they've put tests on the body, they have found electromagnetic movement at these points where these chakras are identified. They didn't have that technology then. Now we've got this, but there are physiological connections in the body as well.
So do you have any general tips or advice that you would give people if they wanted to start looking at their overall general well-being? Where would you start?
The breath. Without a doubt. You don't need anybody to teach you how to breathe. Actually, I'll rephrase that. You might need somebody to teach you to breathe properly, but you can breathe without anybody being around. Now, my go-to, the easiest one, I roll it out, practitioners roll it out, stop, breathe. Stop what you're doing, take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Most of us are shallow breathers naturally, so we're only breathing sort of just below the collarbones. So if you ever want to, I encourage you, if you're listening to this, put your hands down to your ribs and find your lower ribs. That's how big your lungs are. So if you can at least take 3 or 4 long, deep breaths in and even longer breaths out, you will clear the stale air that sits in the bottom of your lungs. You will stimulate the alveoli in your lungs. They will pick up the oxygen and they will replenish all your cells and organs. And that in itself can just really begin just to relax you. You can take that much further. There's tons of techniques on breathing. But I would say if you're going to do anything at home, number one, do that. And the other one that I'm really fond of, this is from a yoga perspective. If you're worried about your balance, when you brush your teeth on one leg.
I love that one. I tell so many people it. It's so brilliant. So simple. We do it every single day.
It does, yeah. And yeah, when you're washing up, stand on one leg. When you're in the queue at the supermarket, make sure you swap legs. Don't do it the same leg all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Meditation is really easy. And sometimes, as a soul coach, I will say, listen to the voice within, and people are waiting for, I don't know who they're waiting for. I don't know if they're waiting for, Ed Sheeran to talk to them or something, but it's just listening to what your own voice is saying. And that's why I really believe we know what the answers are, because sometimes the voice is going, you don't really want to do this. And you go, oh yeah, well, I've got to because I've said yes now. No, you don't really want to do this. I have to because I've told her we'll meet at 6:00. You don't really want to do this. Listen to that voice that says those things, because that's really what I mean when you're listening to your true intuitive self. You know the answers. So those are 3 simple tips on both levels. The breathing works for the soul coaching, the breathing works for yoga, listening to your inner voice works for yoga and soul coaching, and the standing on one leg, I absolutely love it.
And you can access it all by yourself at any time.
You don't need me or you or anybody else to do any of that.
Just for you. Leading on to my next question. What inspires you?
Yeah, that is a good one. I've been really good so far, haven't I? So I'm glad you've tripped me up, because I was like, yeah, I've got these. Okay, what inspires me? I think, we had a pre-chat before, and we were both saying, we're really motivated at the moment. And I love it when your mind is in the good place and you get things done. I love it when you can tick things off your list. Last Friday, I did a massive brain dump. Everything that I work on, I've got several projects going. I got them all out onto a piece of paper. Today, I've had a really productive day, and I've gone tick, gone, tick, gone. I love that. That's number one. And the other one that inspires me, I suppose, are women of my same age who are out there doing it. So yeah, there are a couple of women who are out there who are still, there's some great women of similar age to me who I really admire. If you're going down the celebrity route, it's not my thing, but I really resonate with the likes of Zoe Ball and Sarah Cox. And actually, I often ask people, if you could have a celebrity to be your best friend, who would it be? Yes. So yeah, I've left Victoria thinking now, and actually, yeah, and I think I really admire Sarah Cox and Zoe Ball, but if I believe that if I met this person would be my best friend. And you'll notice that I'm quite radio orientated because they're all Radio 2 presenters, but Lisa Tarbuck. I literally feel that if I walked into a room with her, I would sit and chew the fat with her. Whether we had a drink of coffee or a glass of wine, I literally feel we would be best friends.
That's a great question. I'm going to have to think about that this evening. We're really done. I'm just going to start to wrap this up now. And
yeah,
you might have already said what you wanted to say, but I'll ask it anyway. I always say I would like to finish off by giving you the floor to share one thing that you think everyone would benefit from knowing.
Don't settle for second best. If you want it, go out and grab it by the nipples and take it. If you want to feel positive, stand up straight and stick your boobs out. Yeah.
And that is a wonderful way to finish this podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Is social media the best place to find you, or your website?
I have both a website and I am active on most social medias. Everything's got links on. Instagram, you can slip into my DMs if you want to. Facebook, I'm there. And I have my webpage is Calm and Kind Yoga. And the middle bit is not calm and kind, it's calm and kind.
No problem. I'll pop links to all of those pages onto the show notes so people can just click straight through. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved this conversation. It's been great fun.
I've had a really lovely time. I'm feeling really high, and I'm going out for a dog walk in a wet, soggy wind.
It'll be a quiet one because not many people will be out.
Thank you so much for your time, Victoria.
You're so welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Live Fit Now podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. I would love to hear from you, so don't forget you can get in touch through social media, clicking through the links in the show notes, or email me directly, hello@livefitnow.co.uk. Until the next time.